Am I the asshole for having my wedding ceremony in sign language? I'm 24F, deaf, and growing up my parents got me bilateral cochlear implants and forced me into mainstream school. Never taught me sign language and never immersed me into my culture as a deaf person. They were actually pretty against me using ASL at all. Well, I took ASL in high school against my parents' wishes and then got into a deaf university. Although I couldn't sign fluently when I started, I finally felt accepted and understood. The deaf community was nothing but welcoming. I became fluent in ASL after a few months and stopped wearing my processors completely as there was no need for them anymore. I honestly didn't realize how alone I had felt until I didn't feel that way anymore. I also met my fiancé at college. He is from a very large family of deaf people. Everyone he knows, even in his far extended family, is deaf, ho, coda or soda, and everyone is fluent in sign. I love his family so much. We've been together for 4 years now. He proposed last May. We've been planning the wedding and decided to have it fully in ASL. The pastor at our church's deaf program agreed to do the ceremony. My extended family of hearing people is very small. Just my mom, my dad, my sister, my brothers, my aunt, my uncle and my cousin. My cousin is learning sign. Whereas my fiancé's huge extended family, who are all deaf or sign fluently, will be there, and most of our friends are deaf or no sign. We decided to get an interpreter for the hearing people though, so they'd know what was going on. Our wedding is in August, so we just sent the invites. The invite mentions that it will be in ASL but will have an interpreter for those who are signing impaired, which is kinda just a joke. But my mom started texting me and tried to convince me that it should be in English and have an ASL interpreter. I feel like it's our wedding, so we should have it in our first language, but my mom thinks that we are in America, so English should be the first language, and anyone who doesn't choose to get cured, get an implant, should get an interpreter. She also said it was disrespectful to say, signing impaired. I don't think she realizes the irony, as she always refers to me as hearing impaired. During the entire conversation she kept repeating that, I should have never let you go to that school. My mom also says that the deaf people should be used to having interpreters, whereas she's never had one before, so it will make it harder to understand. Am I the asshole here? Should I just have the ceremony in English because I guess that's the more normal way of communication, even though we consider sign our primary language? Edit to clarify some things. 1. I can't cut off my parents as I'm currently helping pay for my little brother to go to a school for autistic kids. 2. We can't sign and speak at the same time. The pastor and my fiancé can't speak. I can but choose not to unless I absolutely have to. 3. My parents didn't only not learn ASL, but they explicitly prevented me from it growing up. We lived in Austin, Texas my whole childhood, and there was a school for the deaf 10 minutes from our house, but they specifically said they would never let me go there. 4. Adding this later, exact words from the invite, reception will be held in ASL. English interpreters will be provided for the signing impaired. I literally put it in quotations. 5. The deaf community didn't indoctrinate me into not wearing my processors. I just started using ASL more and more, and then I needed a surgery to adjust the implant, but I decided to just not get the surgery and stop wearing them. There was no real point in it and I didn't feel like getting an unnecessary surgery. 6. Another edit. To those of you questioning and even mad at me for not wanting to wear implants, you don't hear normally. Like a lot of people say things like, don't you want to hear music? Or birds chirping? Music through Cs suck, at least for me. Even when I used to wear Cs all the time, I would take them off to listen to music. And no, background noise like birds chirping makes it harder for the microphone to pick up other noises like people talking. Not the asshole. Not even close. Why should the couple getting married need a translator to understand their own ceremony to appease a few of the attendees? That is ridiculous. It would be like having a bride and groom who are hearing, love the sign impaired joke, that speak English have their ceremony done in French, which they don't speak, because a handful of attendees don't speak English. When you take ASL out of the mix, it sounds ridiculous. Why is ASL any different? In my opinion, your mom has issues with you being deaf and bigger issues now that you have found your community to which she does not belong. That is toxic and I would not cater to it. My mom thinks that we are in America, so English should be the first language. Not the asshole, and correct me if I am wrong here, but it's called American Sign Language, kinda makes her statement funny. Hard to understand? The interpreter is literally going to be speaking a language she understands so she can understand it. She's already an A for how she treated you growing up and not even learning any sign when her kid is deaf, and now this. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. It's your wedding. You could do the vows in Klingon if you wanted and no one would have the right to complain. Not the asshole. 1. It's your wedding. Not hers. 2. It sounds like your wedding is designed to feel comfortable and natural for a majority of your guests, with reasonable accommodations for the few outliers, the signing impaired. 3. Your mom sounds ableist AF. I'm so sorry. I wish she were able to wrap her head around the fact that any discomfort, awkwardness, exclusion she may anticipate feeling from your proposed wedding plan is just a small taste of what you have likely experienced living in a hearing world for such a large part of your life. That said, it seems like you've found your way to a loving and accepting community and family. Congratulations and have a beautiful wedding. Heart heart heart. Not the asshole. Maybe this will teach her ableist butt about what you as a deaf person feel and go through regularly. You're just giving her a taste of her own idiotology, although in a non-mean and hilarious manner. Also congrats on your wedding and I wish you the best 2 hearts. Not the asshole. Use your first language. I am hearing. And I wish ASL was taught more in the general public. I wouldn't want to impose deaf culture, but I took classes in collage and I don't understand why sign language isn't more included in society as a whole. It's useful and beautiful. I really enjoyed learning about it even though I never became fluent. And just so you know, the US does not have an official language. So threw that back in your mother's face if she bring up English again. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. I've gone to a Jewish wedding where the entire ceremony was in Hebrew, of which I know maybe 5 words not related to holidays or food. They handed out programs in English like an opera, and we Gentile folk kept up just fine. You're doing more than enough by having an interpreter handy. Edit. Misspelled word. Oh my gosh. I can't even. Not the asshole obviously. I can hear fine, so you should get an interpreter because I feel like it would be an inconvenience to me to have to listen to translation at your wedding. Not the asshole. Your wedding, your choice. I think it sounds great. Your family were never accommodating of your needs yet you're still being accommodating to them by providing an interpreter. I'd be tempted to veto the interpreter completely and force them to learn some basic ASL if they want to be included, much like you were forced to fend for yourself in an ASL impaired school and household. But hey, that's just the petty asshole in me talking. Not the asshole, and this is a super cool idea. Question. How do you plan on everyone at the venue being able to see the signing? Is it a large venue? I know this isn't the point at all, but I'm a logistics person and it just crossed my mind while I was reading your post. Not the asshole. Your story reminds me of a short film called The Silent Child that made me cry so hard when I watched it. It's on YouTube and is fully subtitled, so if you've never seen it I highly recommend it. But, outside of that, your wedding idea sounds wonderful, and you're right that the language it is in should be the language the bride and groom understand. Not the asshole. Firstly, it's your day to have however you want. More importantly, it makes total sense to have your ceremony in your language. Your parents are looking down on your culture and community as a deaf person after making you feel foreign for a good portion of your life. Hopefully they will come out of this more educated and enlightened people. While reading this I had to Google is ASL English. In. Well, I'm learning something new. Thanks. Honestly, as a hearing person I can't really envision how being deaf is a culture. However, I can understand feelings of isolation, loneliness, of being different or an other, or of not belonging. And how it must feel to finally find the place you belong. You've found your clan, and I'm super happy for you. The signing impaired bit is hilarious. Not the asshole. P.S. The US has no formal language, so you should tell your mom in ASL to stuff it. As a fellow deaf person I am deeply offended by your mom. Not the asshole. It's your day to do as you wish. If she doesn't like it, she doesn't have to come woman shrugging. Not the asshole. She does realize that English was not the first language spoken here, right? So the whole, we're in America, everyone should speak English, argument is just plain ignorant. We are a mishmash of cultures and ethnicities and there's no reason why you can't have your own wedding ceremony in the language you and your fiancé use. Your mom needs to get over herself. She is signing impaired because she's an asshole who has willfully chosen to be. Coda? Soda? It sounds like you fell head first into the deaf community and didn't look back. Your parents tried to shield you from the issues and problems people who are deaf can face in day-to-day society. They wanted you to be normal. You must know it's harder to live when you cannot hear. I get that you have fell in love with someone who is deaf and went to a college for the deaf and it's now your life. Hopefully your parents will accept that. You're not the asshole as it is your wedding, but I can see both sides. Writing this from someone whose uncle is deaf. Not the asshole. Now your mom gets to know what it's like to be you. Deaf people deal with this every day of their lives. Every single day deaf people attend functions where they feel left out because nobody thought to get an interpreter for them because 99% of the guests are hearing. Well, your wedding is the opposite and you have chosen to cater to the majority of your guests, who are all deaf. At least you're kind enough to get them an interpreter. Your mom had your entire life to learn ASL. Instead, she chose to try and force her child into being normal. This is entirely on her. Maybe this will be a wake-up call for your family. Not the asshole. It's your wedding, so your and your fiancé's desires are the only two that really matter. If that's your normal way of communicating, then that's how your wedding should be, and any guests who can't sign need to adapt and listen to the interpreter. There's zero difference between this and if you wanted to get married in Russian, so the non-Russian speaking gays needed to listen to the interpreter to hear what's going on. Not the asshole, she's had your whole lifetime to learn ASL. Send her a link to some online lessons and tell her if she's so concerned about not understanding there's plenty of time to learn. Not the asshole. It's your wedding, congratulations. You have it however you want. Is it true that some people get shunned by the deaf community for having the cochlear implants? Is that the reason why you don't want to wear yours? Not the asshole. If ASL is your heart language, the language with words and sayings that reach your heart, this is the language you should get married in. Also, this is your actual language. Whether your mom believes that or not, congratulations. Why not the asshole? I'm deaf, one side, because of a brain tumor. How does your mother suggest I cure that? She is an asshole of immeasurable proportions. If she thinks that having an interpreter is such an inconvenience, how the holy hell does she think everybody else in that room has felt for their entire lives? Selfish, inconsiderate and entitled. If she doesn't like it, she doesn't have to go. She could very well shout about it, but who would hear her? Or care? Not the asshole. Your wedding, your choice. Also, if most of the people invited are deaf or no sign language, I don't see an issue at all. Heck, if it was only you and your fiancé who are deaf, it wouldn't be an issue. The wedding is about you and your fiancé, not your mom or other relatives. Not the asshole. Having it in ASL is awesome and it's important to who you are. Your mother is being an asshole. Info. Not that this would really make a difference because as many have said it is your wedding, but are your parents paying for any part of your wedding? They may feel entitled to an opinion because they are. You may want to reconsider their help if this is how they want to treat their daughter and her new spouse. If not, they can go suck eggs. Not the asshole. I love this idea and I really love the signing impaired part. Please don't change your wedding for your mom. She needs to get a taste of being a minority, it will probably do her some good. Also, why is it that the minority assimilating is being seen as right and normal and the majority assimilating is seen as undoable and so hard? It is still the same thing being asked of them. Not the asshole. It's your wedding, so you decide. She's your own mom and she doesn't support you. Just cut her off because she won't support you. Not the asshole. And the American speak English argument is bullshit. Your mom sounds like a piece of work. Don't let her guilt you into changing your day. Not the asshole. It is your wedding, so at the end of the day it's what you want, not what your parents want. Also, can I just iterate that your parents are absolute asshole for trying to deny you from being someone that you want to be. Trying to make you feel like being deaf is a terrible thing. They are outright ignorant and selfish and can't stand anything abnormal. Honestly, if it was me, I'd be saying to my parents, you either come to the wedding as it is or don't come at all. I have major respect for you for not being as mad at your family than what a large portion of people would be. In a lot of cases things like this would be a huge cutoff point. Not the asshole. I was prepared to say you're the asshole because I thought you wouldn't have an interpreter for those who were signing impaired, but you have that covered. Your wedding is for you and your fiancé. It is you that are exchanging vows. Why should your vows be interpreted to you? They should be in your primary language. Everyone should share your joy. Tell your mom to get over herself and to stop treating you as a second-class citizen. Not the asshole. Have your wedding in your primary language. I'd say that regardless of the other information you shared, but the fact that the majority of folks there will sign only confirms this. I also think the signing impaired is delightful. I don't know ASL beyond a few limited phrases, but I'd be happy to come to a signed wedding. It might sound cheesy, but one of my favorite things about humans is experiencing all of the diverse languages we use to communicate. To me, ASL is just one more of those languages. Not the asshole. Your hearing party guests probably will feel weird at some point, because, in my personal experience, we are so used hearing certain things as some kind of background noise. Even if we don't really follow it. They will survive though. Not the asshole. Haha, you guys are awesome. Signing impaired, that's a fantastic way to put it. Not the asshole, you have it in any language you choose. You are deaf, why shouldn't you be allowed to use the language of the deaf at your own wedding? How entitled aren't your mum to try to interfere? I would hire a interpreter for Klingon, Star Trek, just out of spite instead of English if my mum did that to me. Not the asshole. Your wedding, your choice. Having an interpreter for those who don't sign is a wonderful idea. Not the asshole. Your wedding is about you. Perfectly reasonable to want it to be conducted in your language. Not the asshole. Your wedding, your choice. Not the asshole. Your parents are ableist as hell and low-key sound ashamed to have a deaf daughter, hence why they forbid you from learning ASL as a kid and refused to let you go to a deaf school. They wanted you to blend in and be normal by going to a mainstream school. Info though, how is it any different that your brother gets to go to a special school for his needs but they restricted you from that same access? Not the asshole at all, it's your wedding and most of the people there are fluent in ASL. I have a question though. I'm relearning sign as an adult. I was mute as a child and also put in a mainstream school once my specialized school started teaching me ASL. One of shows I picked up signs from was switched at birth, and in one of the episodes the biological father was learning terminology and told his wife that he learned that the correct terms are deaf or hard of hearing, but never hearing impaired. Is this true? Why did you even bother to ask here since your mind is made up and you're arguing with anyone who doesn't agree with you? ASL is your and your fiancé's primary language, so of course you should have the ceremony in the language you use every day and with each other. Your mother is a piece of work. Tell her ASL is an American language. It will make it harder to understand. The irony and the entitlement. Tell her the experience of being in a minority for once will be good for her. Just tell her she's been advised of the plans, and they're not changing. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. It's your wedding and it sounds lovely. And I think the signing impaired interpreter is awesome, so you have been accommodating to guests who don't use ASL. I love weddings that incorporate different cultures and traditions, languages, etc. I feel like the way they raised you is maybe almost neglectful? Or some type of abuse for sure. This breaks my heart for you, for sure. Don't listen to her. I'm happy you were able to finally embrace the deaf community and its culture. Very much so. Not the asshole, and I hope you have a wonderful wedding. Whoa, hold up. Your brother goes to a special needs school, to accommodate his disability. Yet they refuse to let you go to a deaf school, and essentially you to get over your disability? There's way too much going on here to unpack. Not the asshole. Not the asshole, and holy shit, your parents are monumental assholes. I truly can't think of anything worse than the isolation they imposed on you by keeping you from a community that would accept you, teach you, and love you. The selfishness of that choice is insane. In my opinion, it's tantamount to abuse, and I'm very sorry for what happened to you. And that your mother is continuing to try to impose her views on your disability on you. You are by far not the asshole for choosing this path for your wedding, but I would think hard about how your mom makes you feel every day. You deserve to feel at home with the people around you, and this post makes me feel like your mom treats you poorly. Not the asshole. Only you and your partner get to decide how your wedding will be. And even to my admittedly unknowledgeable self on these issues, your mother sounds ignorant AF. Well, I took ASL in high school against my parents' wishes and then got into a deaf university. Good on you. Not the asshole.